Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah,
This time we're going to be looking at some materials about how to learn English as a beginner.
right.
And this should be, I think, fun for people who are listening to this and, want to learn English.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess the first thing to say is that English is the most spoken language in the world.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right?
It
You
is.
think about like how many people you can communicate with
Yeah.
if you can speak English.
It's kind of the default language to
Yeah,
go anywhere.
for business, for travel, for just like
Yeah.
meeting new people. It's
Absolutely. And I think that's something that the source that we're looking at really emphasizes is that
yeah.
English can open up a lot of doors for you, and they're not wrong.
No, not at all. I mean, especially when you consider like careers and stuff,
Yeah,
so many jobs require English these days.
absolutely.
Or look at it this way, you could like enjoy so much more entertainment
Yeah,
if you understand English,
sure.
you know.
It's
Sure. I mean, you got all the music, movies, TV shows.
yeah.
It's endless.
And I've even heard anecdotally from people that have learned English as a second language that they feel like it gives them more confidence
Oh, yeah, definitely.
because they can, express themselves in more ways, or they can,
Hmm.
meet more people.
Absolutely. There's something about being able to connect with people from different backgrounds,
Right.
cultures, and it just like broadens your perspective on things.
It
And I
does.
think it even helps you understand your own native language better
Interesting.
when you see how another language works,
Yeah, that makes
You
sense.
start to appreciate the nuances
Yeah.
of language in general.
So where does this guide that we're looking at tell us to begin?
Well, they actually do a really good job of breaking it down into like manageable steps.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of times when people start learning a new language, they get overwhelmed,
Yeah.
right? Like, where do I even start?
Right.
There's so much to learn.
It's like looking at a whole dictionary and being like,
Exactly. It's
right.
like climbing a mountain, You got to
Right.
take it one step at a time.
So what's that first step according to the guide?
Well, they really emphasize the importance of just starting with like basic words and phrases.
Okay.
Like greetings.
Like hello?
Exactly. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Thank
See-
you. Excuse me. Like those kind of everyday phrases.
Right. Those are things that you would use no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter what level you're at.
And the thing is, like, once you master those basic phrases, you can actually start having like simple conversations
Okay.
right away.
So they're encouraging people to speak right from day one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make
Okay.
when they're learning a new language. They're so afraid of making mistakes
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
that they don't even try to speak.
Right.
But the thing is, like, the more you speak,
Yeah.
the faster you learn.
It's true.
It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall a few times, but
Have
eventually
the hang of it.
you get the hang of it. Exactly. And, speaking of getting the hang of it,
Yeah.
the guide also talks about something called immersion.
Okay, immersion. I've heard of that, but I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Yeah. So basically, it's about surrounding yourself
Okay.
with the language as much as possible.
So, like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, it could be anything from like watching movies and TV shows in English
Okay.
to listening to music to even like reading books or articles.
So you're basically just trying to get as much exposure to the language as possible.
And the more you expose yourself to it,
Yeah.
the more natural it will start to feel.
That makes sense because you're kind of absorbing it passively, even if you don't realize it.
Right. Like when you were a kid,
Yeah.
and you learned your first language, you didn't sit down with a textbook.
Right.
You just absorbed it from your environment.
And I think, what's cool about that is that there's so many fun ways to do that now.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, if you wanted to immerse yourself in English, you had to like move to an English-speaking country
Yes,
or something. But now you have all these streaming services, like Netflix and Hulu and
YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
You can find content in English.
From all over the world
Yeah.
with all kinds of accents and everything.
And you can also like connect with people online,
yeah,
through social media or language exchange apps.
right.
So there's really no excuse not to immerse yourself
No, it's so easy.
these days.
And so accessible.
yeah,
So we've talked about the importance of speaking from day one.
right.
We've talked about immersion.
Mm-hmm.
What else does this guide emphasize for us?
Well, another thing they talk about are flashcards and language learning apps
Oh, yeah.
like Duolingo, Memory, Zanki.
Okay, so those are really popular right now.
Yeah, they are.
But do they actually work?
Well, they can be really effective, especially when it comes to building vocabulary.
Okay.
And the reason they work is because they use this concept called spaced repetition.
Spaced repetition.
Yeah, have you heard that?
I have, but explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay, so basically it's the idea that you learn things better when you review them at spaced intervals.
Okay.
So instead of like cramming a bunch of words all at once, you
Right.
space out your review sessions.
Okay.
And each time you review something, it gets a little bit easier to remember.
So it's kind of like strengthening that connection in your brain.
Exactly.
Okay.
And these apps, they kind of do that for you automatically.
Okay, so they take the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And they also make it kind of fun. You know,
Yeah.
like Duolingo, they have those little cartoon characters.
Yeah.
And they gamify the learning process.
Yeah.
So it feels less like study and more like playing a game.
Right. And I think that's really important because if it's fun,
Yeah.
you're more likely to stick with it.
Absolute consistency is key
Right.
when it comes to language learning.
But here's my question.
Yeah.
If you're just fencing on vocabulary, aren't you going to sound like a robot?
That's a good point. And actually, the guide addresses that too.
Okay, good. Because I was starting to get a little worried.
Yeah, so they actually say that while vocabulary is important, it's also important to learn basic sentence structures.
Okay.
So you can start putting those words together
Yeah.
into meaningful sentences.
So, like, what kind of sentence structures are we talking about?
Well, they start with really simple ones.
Okay.
Like, I am happy.
I am happy.
She likes coffee.
Okay.
You're just like subject, verb, object.
Right.
Just to get the basic idea of how English sentences are structured.
And then from there, you can build on that.
Exactly. And as you learn more vocabulary,
Yeah.
you can start treating more complex sentences.
But it's about starting with that foundation. Okay.
And not getting overwhelmed.
Right. Because I think, when people think about grammar,
Oh, yeah.
they think about all those rules.
All the tenses.
Yeah, all the tenses and the exceptions and
The irregular verbs.
right.
It's a lot.
Yeah, so this guide is kind of saying, don't worry about all that right now. Just
Yeah.
focus on the basics.
Just get the foundation down,
Okay, I like that.
and then you can build on that
Yeah.
later.
So speaking of building on things
Yeah.
and not being afraid to make mistakes, the guide also talks about the importance of embracing mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, I have a funny story about that.
Oh, I love stories. Tell me.
So when I was first learning Italian,
Okay.
I was in Rome, and I was feeling pretty confident about my language skills.
Okay, good for you.
And I went to a cafe,
Yeah.
and I wanted to order a cappuccino
Okay, classic.
with whipped cream.
Sounds delicious.
All right, so I thought I knew the word for whipped cream,
Uh-huh.
and I said, un cappuccino con panna.
Okay.
And I thought I was nailing it.
You were feeling good? I was feeling so good.
Proud of yourself.
Yeah. And then the barista brings me my cappuccino,
Yeah.
and it's just like
Uh-oh.
covered in cream.
Not whipped cream.
Not whipped cream, just like
Just a lot of cream.
a pool of cream.
Oh,
And
no.
I was like, oh, no.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
It was so embarrassing. But you know what I learned from it?
Did you learn that panner?
Panna means cream,
Not whipped cream.
not whipped cream.
Okay. And that's okay.
It's okay.
That's how you learn.
Exactly. You got to make mistakes to learn.
So this guide is telling us to embrace those moments
Yeah.
and to not be afraid of sounding silly.
Absolutely. Everyone makes mistakes.
Right.
It's part of the process.
And it's how you learn.
Exactly.
And sometimes it makes for a big story later.
Yeah. You can laugh about it later. Exactly. So, yeah, embrace the mistakes.
Okay, so we've talked about starting small.
All right.
Speaking from day one.
Mhm.
Immersion, flashcards and apps.
Yep.
Basic sentence structures. Embracing mistakes.
Right.
Anything else from this guide that we should touch on before we move on?
Well, there's one more thing that I think is really important,
Okay, what's that?
and that's making learning fun.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Because if it's not fun,
Yeah,
you're not going to stick with it.
you're going to get bored.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we make language learning fun?
Well, the guide has a lot of great suggestions.
Okay.
Like, for example, they talk about singing along to music.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's a great way to learn new vocabulary and to practice your pronunciation.
Yeah, and it's just fun.
Exactly.
Like even if you're not learning English, singing along to music is just fun.
It's a mood booster.
Yeah.
It's a stress reliever.
So what kind of music would you recommend for someone who's learning English?
I mean, it really depends on your taste. But I think it's helpful to choose songs with clear lyrics
Okay.
and a catchy melody.
Like pop music?
Yeah, pop music is usually a good place to start.
Yeah.
And, if you can sing along to a song in English,
Yeah.
you're already practicing your pronunciation and expanding your vocabulary
That's true.
without even realizing it.
And I think, what's cool about music is that there are so many different genres.
Yeah.
So you can find something that you actually enjoy listening to,
Absolutely.
you know?
There's something for everyone.
Yeah, it doesn't have to feel like a chore.
Exactly.
So besides music, what are some other fun ways to learn English?
Well, the guide also mentions watching kids' shows.
Kids shows, like
Yeah.
cartoons and stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And you might think like, oh, that's silly.
Yeah.
But actually, kids' shows are designed for language learning.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they use simple language.
Okay.
They speak slowly and clearly.
Right.
And they often repeat key phrases.
So it's kind of like built-in repetition.
Exactly.
Okay.
And plus, they're usually pretty entertaining,
Yeah.
even for adults.
Even for adults, I'll admit, I still watch cartoons sometimes.
Me too.
So don't feel ashamed if you're watching SpongeBob.
Exactly.
To learn English.
No judgment here.
Okay, so we've got music, we've got kids shows.
Mm-hmm.
What else is...
Well, they also talk about playing games in English.
Oh, like video games.
Video games, board games,
Okay.
word games, anything really.
That's cool.
Yeah, and again, it's about finding something that you enjoy
Yeah.
and that challenges you.
So it doesn't feel like work.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, the great thing is that there are so many resources available now.
Yeah.
Like you can find online games, language learning apps.
Right.
You can even connect with people online
Yeah.
to practice speaking.
So it's really about finding what works for you
Mm-hmm.
and having fun with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
There we have.
But I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
There's always more to learn.
There's always more to learn. So I guess the question is,
Yes.
where do we go from here?
Well, I think the best thing to do is to just take action.
Okay.
Pick one thing from this guide
Mm-hmm.
that resonated with you
Mm-hmm.
and commit to trying it today.
Today.
Yeah. Why wait?
That's true.
The sooner you start,
The better.
better.
But with so many options, it can be kind of overwhelming to know where to begin.
Yeah, it can feel like standing at the bottom of a mountain
Right.
and being like, how do I even,
Where do I put my foot?
where do I even start climbing?
Right. It can feel a little bit like standing at the bottom of a mountain, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of climbing to do. Where do I even put my foot first?
Right. But the good news is you don't have to climb the whole mountain at once.
Okay. That's good to hear because I'm not really in mountain climbing shape.
Yeah, me neither.
So what's like a more manageable first step?
Well, just pick one small thing
Okay.
and try it today.
Like what kind of thing?
Well, you could download a language learning app
Okay.
and just spend like 5 minutes exploring it.
Okay, 5 minutes. I can do that.
Exactly. Or you could listen to one English song
Mm-hmm.
while you're commuting to work or school.
Okay.
Or you could even just write down 3 new English words
Okay.
that you want to learn today.
Okay, so it's really about just starting somewhere
Exactly.
and not putting too much pressure on yourself
Right.
to be perfect or to learn everything at once.
Just take those baby steps.
Baby steps. I like
Yeah. And what's cool about language learning is that those small steps
that. Yeah.
can actually bring some immediate joy.
Ooh, immediate joy. Tell me more.
Well, imagine like finally understanding the lyrics to that English song you've been listening to.
Okay. Yeah.
Or being able to order your lunch in English
Mm-hmm.
when you're traveling.
Okay.
Those little moments of success
Yeah.
can be so rewarding.
Yeah, I can see that.
And they keep you motivated to keep going.
So it's like those little wins fuel the fire.
Exactly.
Keep learning.
And speaking of keeping going,
Yeah.
another thing the guide emphasizes is consistency.
Ah, consistency.
Yep,
The key to success in pretty much anything.
it really is.
But how do we make language learning a consistent part of our lives?
Well, it starts with setting realistic goals.
Okay.
So instead of aiming to become fluent overnight,
Yeah, because that's not going to happen.
probably not.
Okay.
Try committing to just 15 minutes of practice each day.
15 minutes. Okay.
That's doable, right?
Yeah, that's way less intimidating than like an hour.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's about building a sustainable habit.
Right, because if it's sustainable,
Yeah.
you're more likely to stick with it.
Exactly. Think of it like working out.
Okay.
You wouldn't expect to run a marathon
Yeah.
after just one gym session.
No, I would definitely be sore.
You'd be very sore.
Okay.
So it's about showing up day after day,
Okay.
even when you don't feel like it.
So consistency over intensity.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
And, the more you practice,
Yeah.
the stronger your language skills will become.
It's like building that language muscle.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So consistency is key,
Mm-hmm.
setting realistic goals.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention from the guide is the importance of celebrating small wins.
Celebrating small wins. I love that.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the big picture
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and forget to acknowledge our progress along the way.
Right. It's like you're so focused on the destination
Yeah.
that you forget to enjoy the journey.
Exactly. So give yourself credit for every new word you learn,
Okay.
every conversation you have,
Mm-hmm.
every time you understand a little bit more.
So it's about recognizing those little victories
Exactly.
and using them as motivation.
Yeah, it's like those little dopamine hits
Okay.
that keep you going.
Yeah, I like that.
So, yeah, celebrate those small wins.
Okay, so we've talked about consistency, setting realistic goals, and celebrating small wins.
Hmm.
Any other final tips or insights from this guide?
One thing that really resonated with me was the emphasis on not being afraid to ask for help.
Oh, yeah. That's important.
Yeah, there are so many resources available
Hmm.
to support language learners.
Like, what kind of resources?
Well, there are online communities,
Okay.
language exchange partners, tutors.
Right.
There's a whole world of support out
So
there.
you don't have to do it alone.
Exactly. And it's actually really helpful to connect with other learners
Okay.
because you can share tips and tricks
Right.
and motivate each other.
And you can commiserate over the challenges.
Exactly.
So don't be afraid to reach out for help
Absolutely.
if you need it.
And you know what else is really cool about language learning is that
What's that?
it's like you're joining this global community of people
Okay.
who share your passion
Right.
for learning.
It's kind of like you're opening up a whole new world.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the language itself. It's
Yeah.
about the connections you make
Mm-hmm.
and the experiences you have.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that learning English
Yeah.
can be fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a journey.
Right.
So enjoy the ride.
I love that. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to make a few wrong turns along the way.
Exactly.
Because that's how you learn.
That's how you grow.
That's how you discover new things.
Absolutely.
So to all our listeners out there who are embarking on this English learning adventure,
Yeah.
we're cheering you on.
We believe in you.
And we can't wait to hear about your progress.
So go out there.
And make us proud. Yeah, it can feel a little like you're standing at the bottom of a mountain and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, how am I going to climb this thing?
Right. But remember, you don't have to climb the whole mountain in one day.
That's true.
Just focus on that first step.
So like what would be a good first step?
Well, you could try downloading one of those language learning apps we were talking about
Okay.
and just spend like 5 minutes, poking around, seeing what it's like.
Okay, you get a feel for it.
Yeah, exactly. Or you could listen to one English song on your way to work or school.
Okay.
Or even just write down like 3 new English words that you want to learn today.
So really anything just to get started.
Exactly. Just something small and manageable.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we overcomplicate things
Definitely.
and we think we have to do like a huge grand gesture.
Right. You don't have to become fluent overnight.
No, definitely not.
Just those little consistent actions. Those are the ones that add up over time.
That's true. It's like those little steps
Yeah.
that eventually get you to the top of the mountain.
Exactly. And you know what's cool about language learning is that those little steps can actually bring some immediate joy too.
Oh, I like that immediate joy. Tell me more.
Well, imagine like finally understanding the lyrics to that English song you've been listening to.
Oh, yeah.
Or being able to order your lunch in English when you're traveling.
Okay.
It's like those little moments of success that keep you motivated.
Yeah, you get that little dopamine hit and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, I can do this.
Exactly. It makes you want to keep going.
So it's not all about like the long-term goal of fluency.
Right.
It's also about enjoying those little milestones along the way.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about the journey, not just the destination.
I like that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, learning a language, it takes time and effort. There are going to be days when you feel frustrated
Yeah.
or discouraged. Maybe you don't feel like you're making progress.
Right. Or you make a mistake and you feel embarrassed.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that everyone goes through that.
Yeah, it's part of the process.
It is. And it's okay to feel those things.
So don't be too hard on yourself.
Exactly. Be patient with yourself.
And just keep going.
Just keep going because the rewards are so worth it.
They are. And, if you're feeling stuck or you need some help, don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah, there are so many resources available.
Like what kind of resources?
Well, there are online communities you can join,
Okay.
language exchange partners you can find,
Mm-hmm.
tutors you can hire.
Right. So there's really no excuse to give up.
Exactly. There's always someone out there who can help you.
And you know what I think is really cool about language learning is that it's not just about learning the language, it's also about connecting with other people.
Yeah, you're joining this global community
Exactly. It's like you're opening up a whole new world.
and a whole new part of yourself.
That's beautiful. I like that. So to all of our listeners out there who are starting their English learning journey,
Yeah,
we're so excited for you.
we believe in you.
And we can't wait to hear about your progress.
So start small, be consistent.
Embrace those mistakes.
Celebrate the wins.
And most importantly, have fun.
Yes, have fun.
We'll see you next time.